the big headline from the week was Mark Parsons leaving the Portland Thorns. He's going to be leaving the Portland Thorns at the end of the NWSL season to coach the Netherlands women's national team. For those of you who are newer to the world of WOSO, I just want to let you know who Mark Parsons is. Mark Parsons is the current head coach of the Portland Thorns, who was hired all the way back in 2016. In his tenure, he's won an NWSL championship. He won that in 2017. He won an NWSL Shield in 2017. He won the NWSL Fall Series at the end of the 2020 season. He won the NWSL Challenge Cup really recently, and he also in that time had 4 playoff berths and 2 NWSL Championship appearances back to back in 2017 and 2018. So what it sounds like he's going to do is he's going to finish the 2021 NWSL season with the Portland Thorns. Then he's going to start his job with the Netherlands women's national team. So I want to make this clear. He's not leaving Portland before the end of the season, and he's also not going to be coaching Netherlands in the Olympics this summer. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. This might have come as a surprise to a lot of people, this move, because Portland, when I think of women's club football, I immediately think of the Portland Thorns. They have done such a crazy good job with their brand. They have great talent. They have no problem going out and getting talent. And they have just built this fantastic, iconic brand in Portland, Oregon that won't be trumped in the NWSL because it's just so powerful and so big. And they have a lot of fans because of it, and I give them mad props. So with how successful they are as a franchise, why would he leave? According to, and I want to make sure I get this right, according to NBC Sports' Dylan McKinnon, it's been for family reasons. So Mark Parsons had this to say: "We lived out here in the United States for 10 years, and that's been challenging being away from my family. The 6, 7, or 8 trips that his family would make to see each other, essentially, that's just gotten tougher and tougher with the pandemic. Of course, it probably hasn't happened at all. So he's stepping away he's stepping away from the team to be with his family, and I don't blame him at all. Of course, you got to love your family and you got to be there for them. So wish him all the best going forward for that, and I'm sure the Portland Thorns fans probably feel the same way. Like I said, he's probably been one of the most successful coaches in the history of the NWSL. So aside from aside from the North Carolina Courage overall, so really interesting move. It begs interesting questions such as who might take his place going forward. This is a big step up for him going to a high-profile women's national team in Netherlands, because the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken, is ranked 4th according to FIFA World's rankings. So Mark Parsons is stepping into a giant role, and I can't wait to see him grow his coaching career over in Europe. So really excited for him. But who might take his place at Portland? My short answer is I really have no idea. No names that I have seen personally from news outlets have been linked to the job. Of course, anybody can form theories, myself included. I'm a fan. I do it all the time. I've even done it on this podcast already many, many times. There's only 2 names that really come to mind that I know are not, that have just gone off of managing high profile teams and are now on the free market. That's Joe Montemurro and Casey Stoney. I don't think either one of them would be interested in the job, because I think one of the big reasons Joe Montemurro left Arsenal, and I made a video about this in the past, was family reasons, and it was probably just the right time for him to step away. And from what I know, his family lives nowhere near America, so for him to take a job where he's going to be away from his family, which is the reason why he left his old job, that wouldn't make a whole ton of sense to me. So I don't really see Joe Montemurro stepping into the role. The only other person I could see is Casey Stoney, and Casey Stoney's been heavily linked to the job in San Diego with Jill Ellis. And according to The Athletic's Meg Linehan, Casey Stoney in the final stages of negotiations with Jill Ellis and the team expected to play in San Diego. So it sounds like Casey Stoney and Jill Ellis are pretty close to finalizing some kind of a deal for Casey Stoney to take over the NWSL expansion team in San Diego in 2022. So I don't really see that. I don't really see Casey Stoney taking the Portland job, but who knows? That might change. I think Casey Stoney would fit nicely in at Portland. She left Man United because they didn't give her the proper resources to properly train her players and keep them healthy. And I think with the Portland Thorns, from what I know, they treat their players and their franchise and their entire club very, very well. And I think Casey Stoney would thrive in that environment, an environment where the franchise cares about their own players, their own managers, and everyone who works for them. And the Portland Thorns have not been afraid to go out and get the best talent in the league and also throughout the world for the last however many years, from mainly from the U.S. Women's National Team and the Canadian Women's National Team. Crystal Dunn, Becky Sauerbrunn, Lindsay Horan, Rocky Rodriguez, Christine Sinclair, Tobin Heath, Alex Morgan at one point. Like the list goes on and on and on. And I think Casey Stoney, with that amount of support and the amount of resources, and with Portland, Oregon, a city that loves their team, would absolutely thrive and love that kind of environment. So, out of the two names that I can think of in my mind, you guys probably know a lot more names in this particular case than I do. This actually wouldn't be such a bad fit for Casey Stoney, even though I don't think she'll actually end up coaching there. The one interesting caveat would be that Casey Stoney would have to adjust to a new league. Overall, the NWSL has so many different rules and nuances that are different from the FAWSL that are super confusing to many people. One of them being mainly the salary cap. That's less of a manager problem and that's more of a front office problem. So Casey Stoney wouldn't have to worry about the salary cap because Casey would go to the franchise and say, "Hey, I want this player, this player, this player," and then the front office would say, "Okay, we've got to work within our constraints to make that happen." So it's up to the front office to really handle that kind of thing. Casey would have to learn some new rules, even in terms of like players assigning rights. Like that would be a very new concept for her. She even talked about it a little bit with Kristen Press and Tobin Heath back when their rights were traded to or drafted, I should say, by Racing Louisville in the expansion draft. So really interesting thought, really interesting ideas. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not, but just something to play around with. But ladies and gentlemen, who do you think will replace Mark Parsons at Portland Thorns at the conclusion of the 2021 season? Whoever you think it might be, feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know what your thoughts are.